I've seen a lot of tutorials for this trick. It's a David Blaine one, obviously. He does it for Tyra Banks. That's probably the first place it premiered, maybe back in like the late '90s in one of David Blaine's first specials. And for some reason, I found myself looking at tutorials for this video or for this trick, and a lot of them were, they weren't bad or anything, but well, I mean, maybe some of them were, but they were modified in a way. They do a different force than David Blaine does, or they do something a little different. What I want to show you is exactly how he does it in the Tyra Banks video. I also came across another video, much more recent, I think within the past few years, where he does it for like a newscaster, like on a little news, like a TV news show or something. So, and he does it the exact same way, and I want to show you exactly how he does it. I'm not going to change anything. So yeah, what you're going to need are a pair of duplicates. I've actually got I've got two pairs in here, but we'll use the tens. Get the duplicates here, doesn't matter which card really, and you're going to start with the duplicates on top. So we got them right here. Now, what Blaine does is he uses a force, I believe it's called the classic force. It's one of the best forces out there in my opinion. It's the cleanest. I think it's the it it's the one that the spectator feels, I think, where they have the ultimate choice. The only problem with this force is that it's not 100%. So I think if you're going to do this force, it's good to have a backup trick, just in case they don't pick it. But basically, it's you got your two duplicates here, and you swing cut. Um, you should probably know how to swing cut. If you don't, this might be a little over your head. So you're just going to swing cut. It doesn't really matter how much. I usually do. I usually cut off a little bit more than half. Then you put the smaller packet on top. Now, a lot of people use a pinky break kind of to hold it, to kind of mark it. I don't usually do that. What I usually do is when I put the bottom packet on top, I leave just a little tiny bit, kind of like right there, if you can see that, a little bit of red right there. And then you kind of just start going through, and ideally they take one of the two cards. So let's say they take that. Now, after they take the one of the duplicates, you're going to put the other one back on top, and then put the top packet back on top of the deck. That way the duplicate is right here, they have the other 10. Of course, you do it a lot smoother than that. Now, you have them look at the card. You do not have them sign it. Do not have them sign it for this one. So, have them memorize it, have them put it back anywhere. Doesn't really matter where, anywhere in the middle of the deck. By the way, this is my first tutorial ever, so I kind of improvise this little stand right here, and I'm kind of cramped on my bed doing this. I really just felt like I kind of needed to do this. Anyway, they put the 10 of hearts back in the deck. What you want to do now is do a little, magic move or something where you hit the deck, is what David Blaine says. Then what you want to do is a double lift. Then you kind of say, is that it? Is that the card? And they say no. And you say, oh, no, it's not. It's a mistake. So what you want to do is say something like, David Blaine says, okay, we rip up mistakes. So you rip it kind of like this. And make sure to keep it face down, by the way. That's pretty important. And usually just rip it twice like that. So you come out with 4 pieces. You put it in their hand. Let them hold on to it. I've seen David Blaine immediately start going through the cards kind of over their hand. That way they don't, feel inclined to look at it. Because in reality, if you were watching, this was the mistake card that we ripped up. Of course, I did a double lift and ripped up the duplicate 10 of hearts, which is now in their hand. Of course, they think it's the queen. In reality, the queen is still on top of the deck. So they have the 10, they think it's the queen. Now you say something like, oh, so if that wasn't your card, if the queen wasn't your card must have been the 10. So now you take the 10. What you're going to do is now a shapeshifter. That's a pretty kind of basic move. It's not too hard. I don't want to go too much into how the shapeshifter works, but basically it's pretty simple. You get a pinky break under the top card, which is the queen, remember. You take their 10, and you kind of just do something like, okay, a little bit better than that. You do something like, okay, watch close, see how the 10 turns into the queen, like this. Now look in your hand. And then they look in their hand and see the 10. The 10 which was just in your hand, which in reality is now right here on the top position. Okay. Now they're going to probably freak out for a second. It's a very powerful moment. What you want to do now, while they're freaking out, you're going to do this immediately. You're going to want to do this pretty quickly after you tell them to look at the ripped card in their hand. Okay. You're going to take the queen, get rid of it, put it anywhere in the deck. Now you're going to turn the deck over. While they're freaking out, you're going to do something which I just learned is called a Mercury fold, I guess. I guess that's what it's called, but basically, remember, the original 10 of hearts that they picked is now on top. Now it was on the top face down. We turned the deck over, everything is face up, so now the 10 of hearts is on the bottom of the deck face up. You're going to do something called a Mercury fold, I guess. So basically, I'll see if I can show this, but in reality, the deck, you're going to have your hand face down like this, but I'll show you kind of a side view. You're going to kind of peel. This doesn't actually take too much practice. You're going to want to have your thumb hang down too, like this, and kind of cover with your front fingers what you're doing. With your left hand, you're going to kind of peel. You're going to kind of peel that bottom card, and just right against your thumb like that. Once it's kind of in half, like that, you're just going to kind of close your hand, okay, around your thumb. Basically, you've just folded the card in half twice, like that. You're going to kind of have something like this. It seems like it's kind of a risky move, but remember, it should be done pretty quick. And then you're going to kind of just continue like this. Basically, you're just holding the folded card on the bottom like this. So let them kind of freak out for a moment, if there's other people watching, let them have a moment, and then you can kind of eventually just take the cards. If you want, you can put them in your pocket, but just make sure they don't really see that. What I usually do when I perform this is I kind of just put, and David Blaine does this too, I think, and you can actually see this pretty clearly. You can see the fold he does, by the way, pretty clearly in the Tyra Banks video. Just take the ripped cards and kind of we're kind of done with them, okay? So you're just gonna kind of get them out of sight, out of mind. You put them with the folded card underneath. So you've got you've got the folded card, and you've also got the ripped cards underneath it. So basically, kind of as an afterthought, you're gonna, of course, it's not an afterthought; it's part of the trick. But what you're gonna do, kind of as an afterthought, is be kind of just like, okay, hold the pieces. Take the pieces, squeeze them. You do want to be pretty careful with this. It's going to take some practice and everything, but because I've actually done it and people have felt, they've never really seen that the card has been restored when I pass it on to them, but they've kind of felt that it's not ripped anymore when I put it in their hands. So I try to kind of hold it like this or something, with the kind of folded edges, kind of covered. And then I kind of, just have them put it in their hand, and then, you tell them to squeeze, and something like that. And then let them do that for a moment. They'll probably say it hurts or something like that. Meanwhile, you've still got your ripped cards right here. You can get rid of that at any, good moment that you see. So yeah, have them, basically the whole trick is done by now. You can have them open their hand and suddenly it's restored. And that's pretty much it. Again, I've seen, I saw some videos doing this, and like I said, a lot of the people kind of modified it in a way. They use like a different force and stuff like that. So it's a pretty advanced trick, I'd say. I wouldn't say it's for beginners. You're gonna want to know how to double lift and everything. That's a pretty basic move. You're gonna want to know how to shapeshift, which is shapeshifting is kind of hit or miss with me. I feel like I feel like when I do it, it can go either way. Sometimes it goes perfect. Most of the time it goes perfect, I feel like. but sometimes, you know, the cards kind of turn a little unevenly. And, you know, most of the time, mistakes that you, the magician, see yourself make, the spectator's not going to see. They really don't know what to look for. So um, go learn how to, you know, again, you need, you know, duplicate cards for this. Obviously, you just get 2 decks. Start with them on top. The classic force, which again is the force with the swing cut, and then leaving a little bit of space kind of right there. You're going to watch that, and then, you know, you kind of just, whenever they get to the forced card, you know, that's obviously, I'll maybe make a video about the classic force, but that's kind of the sketchiest part of this whole trick for me. Of course, if they don't take the forced card, or the card that you want them to force, you know, um, then just go on to a different trick or something like that. Um, that's pretty much it. Um, and again, oh, actually, one more thing. The beauty of using duplicates. Of course, this trick is impossible without using duplicates. Um, the beauty of using duplicates is kind of twofold, in my opinion. I actually have another set in here, so I'll show you. They're 2 queens of clubs. Um, the beauty of using duplicates for this trick, other than the fact that it's required, when you do the classic force, um, the chances that they're going to take one of your cards, should be them, yep, right there. The chances that they're going to take one of the cards that you want them to take goes from 1 in 52 to 1 in 26, which is a great increase in odds, in my opinion. Of course, they're right next to each other, so you could easily pass them by, you know, if you get one of those picky people who want to take, you know, one of the cards next to the bottom or something like that. Yeah, but most of the people, believe it or not, the classy force actually the classic force seems kind of ballsy, I guess. It kind of is, but believe it or not, um, I'd say probably 75% of the time they're gonna take it. Of course, again, if you have 2 cards. Hello? Hello? Is that Andoria?